So it's the beginning of April, which means it's time for some more Game Pass releases. They just revealed their first wave of games, which includes 7 different titles, but little does some know, we actually already have some more information about Wave 2 as well, which includes a couple very exciting Day 1 releases. On top of that, Xbox is teasing yet another major Day 1 announcement that could really be revealed at any moment. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, you might want to go ahead and prepare your jimmies, but not just for you Xbox fans. There's also a lot of excitement over on the PlayStation side of things as well, because it sounds like a showcase is right around the corner. Before we get started, though, do make sure to subscribe if you like this type of content. I am here every weekday, and if you want the latest gaming news, make sure to hit those buttons. With that said, let's just go and get right into the video, starting off with a rather interesting leak. This is coming from the ever-reliable Tom Henderson, and according to him, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is not the only new Prince of Persia game set for 2024. In a little bit of a surprise, it actually kind of appears that Ubisoft is experimenting with the franchise, which apparently includes a new roguelike game developed by the Dead Cells studio, Evil Empire. Allegedly, they've been developing this game since 2019, and they're preparing to launch it into Steam Early Access this year, where they can update it over time based on community feedback. That clearly worked very well for Dead Cells, which to this day is one of the most praised independent roguelites out there. So a similar approach for Prince of Persia, I think, is actually a pretty good thing, all things considered. Though I will say, for you longtime Prince of Persia fans out there that's been waiting patiently, you might want to go ahead and prepare yourself. I still remember when The Lost Crown was first announced, and its initial announcement was not received all that well because of its art style and it being a smaller scope game. Ironically, though, it did actually turn out to be a pretty amazing game, and the reason I bring all of that up in the first place is because whatever this new game ends up being, its art style is allegedly inspired by Franco-Belgian comics. So do expect this to be a very stylized art style, but with that said, don't judge it too quick. It might not necessarily be that next big AAA Prince of Persia game that a lot of fans have been waiting for, but it could still be a very good game at the end of the day. So I'm really just kind of hoping for the best, and if anything else, I'm happy to see Ubisoft experiment with the Prince of Persia IP. I'm glad they haven't completely forgot about it, and it's nice to see them, try some new things out with, some different games that aren't just Assassin's Creed. So right now, it does kind of seem like Ubisoft is putting a lot of effort into the Prince of Persia IP, and it seems to be making somewhat of a comeback. Now, if only we could get some news on that Sands of Time remake. Now, we also got an update for Dragon's Dogma 2. Capcom just announced it surpassed the 2.5 million sold milestone in just 10 days. And, just to put that into perspective here, it took the first game 3 years to sell 2.3 million copies. In 10 days, it sold more than the first game did in 3 years. So really, if you look at the history of Dragon's Dogma, I think this milestone is flat out amazing. And I remember when the original Dragon's Dogma first launched, and it was probably one of the most overlooked RPGs of that time. It didn't get exceptional reviews or anything like that. But the Dragon's Dogma fan base, they really believed in this IP and the potential that it had. So with word of mouth, it sold fairly well over time, and thankfully, Capcom gave it another shot, because here we are today, and Dragon's Dogma 2 so far is one of the best launches of 2024. Now, at the same time, I can't help but think, what if this game was more optimized? And what if it didn't have those controversial microtransactions? If not for those things, how much more successful could Dragon's Dogma 2 possibly be? And I do wonder if that controversy will damage its long-term success. I mean, we'll kind of see about all of that over time. But for the time being, as of today, big congrats to Capcom. 2.5 million in just 10 days is an incredible feat. Yeah, it could use some more polish. We all get that. But there's definitely a good game here, and they're certainly being rewarded heavily for that accomplishment. Okay, so shifting gears here, let's go and talk about Xbox Game Pass. They just revealed their first wave of April games, and as you can see here, this includes Kona, LEGO 2K Drive, Little Gator Game, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Botany Manor, EA Sports PGA Tour, and lastly, Harold Halibut. Now, Super Hot Mind Control Delete also launched just today. Go check that out. And then yesterday, subscribers got Ark Survival Ascended as well. We talked about those in a previous video. Those are pretty good inclusions for Game Pass. And overall, I'd say that April is off to a fairly solid start with just those 2 games alone. I think for this new list, however, the 2 that immediately stands out are LEGO 2K Drive and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I mean, I can say firsthand that I really enjoyed the entire Tomb Raider rebooted trilogy. And one of the cool things about Shadow of the Tomb Raider specifically is that it plays much better on the Xbox Series X than what it initially did years ago when it first launched on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. It originally had some frame rate issues, but now here you are and you can play it at a fairly solid 60 frames per second at 4K resolution on the Xbox Series X. And I mean, this game still looks visually very, very impressive. If you haven't already played it, I definitely give this one 2 thumbs up. It will be available to subscribers on April 11th. I'm probably more curious about LEGO 2K Drive though. This is a game that I haven't played yet. It launched just last year, and I do like the concept of this game. It's an open world LEGO game where you can build and race your own rides. It really seems like the perfect combination on paper. I like the visual art style as well, and I just think that this is a great inclusion for those that have kids. This is going to be the perfect game for them to boot up and play, where they can just have fun and unlock their creativity in a LEGO-like world. This is something that I always like to talk about when it comes to Game Pass, but including those games that are fun for the entire family are, in my opinion, some of the most worthwhile inclusions. These are just so appreciated if you have kids. LEGO 2K Drive, though, will be available tomorrow on April 3rd, so you're not going to have to wait all that long. Now, for that matter, don't sleep on Little Gator Game either. This is a collectathon exploration adventure game that takes inspiration from several classics such as the beloved Zelda franchise as one such example. I mean, if you look at its reviews, it does have an 84 overall score on Metacritic, and then its Steam reviews are overwhelmingly positive with 99% of all reviews recommending it. Like, I get it. Some people view its art style and they just kind of overlook this game. But I mean, when you listen to fans and their impressions, people seem to love this game and it might be worth a try. I mean, if anything, why not? That's the beauty of having something like Xbox Game Pass. It doesn't cost anything extra to give something like this a try, and who knows, you might find yourself surprised. Little Gator Game will be available on April 4th. Now, there are 2 day one titles here as well, which includes Harold Halibut. It will be out on April 16th, and on the surface, this game looks quite frankly bizarre. It's definitely a very different style of game. It's got this handcrafted claymation art style to it, and supposedly it's about friendship in a city-sized spaceship that's submerged in an alien ocean. I mean, this game really just looks kind of weird and also very creative, but at the same time, who knows? Maybe it'll surprise us. It could be a surprise hit, or it could be a complete dud. But being available on Game Pass, we'll get to try it out ourselves come April 16th. Like I said at the top of the video, though, this is really just the first wave of April games, and we already know about 2 other day one titles that's coming this month, which includes Iodine Chronicle 100 Heroes. This is probably one of the most anticipated JRPGs this year. It was actually a Kickstarter project years ago, and it immediately smashed all of its funding goals because it's a spiritual successor to Suikoden 2. It also comes from the same creator as Suikoden 2, and I mean, just look at this game. It's visually absolutely stunning. Sports that HD 2D art style that is just so great for these type of games, and the wait is finally almost over. It will be out on April 24th, including a day one Xbox Game Pass release. Then just 1 day later, Another Crab's Treasure will also be out as well. This is a cutesy Souls-like with platforming and really just a killer charm to boot. They describe it as a Shells-like because it's a Souls-like where you can swap different shells for different styles of armor. I've had this game on my radar since it was first announced. I think it looks really good, and it will be out on April 25th. So if anything, I think there's a few independent games worth keeping an eye on for the month of April, but that's also where things get really interesting, because what is the most anticipated and one of the most talked about independent games for 2024? Of course, it's the game that just kind of vanished off the face of the earth, Hollow Knight Silksong. Now, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. A Hollow Knight Silksong Xbox Store listing popped up online. And at first, a lot of people didn't really believe that news. Surely this is just some kind of sick, cruel April Fool's joke, because there's sickos like that out there. You just can't trust anybody on April Fool's Day. But that's the thing. This is actually a legitimate new listing. And now Xbox's Sarah Bond is also teasing the news as well. You can see her tweet here, which reads, "Who's looking forward to day one? Hashtag Xbox Game Pass." So, yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like some Silksong news is incoming sometime possibly very soon. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up too much here, but we could actually have a release date before the end of April if we're lucky here. And if we do, go ahead and subscribe, because I will let you know as soon as we get that news. Okay, now we also got some PlayStation news today. You can mark this as a rumor for the time being, but according to the often leaky Jeff Grubb, he claims that he's heard that PlayStation is ramping up to do something next month in May, possibly a state of play or maybe even a full-blown PlayStation showcase. Now, he doesn't know quite yet, but I will say we are moving into the E3 season, so, May does make a lot of sense. Sony does seem to like late May or early June for their showcases, so, this does make a lot of sense. Plus, we really don't know much about what's planned for the second half of 2024. Most of PlayStation's big exclusives were actually early this year. Games like Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the upcoming Stellar Blade. But what's after that? Well, I think based on what we do know and what we've already heard, there are a few things that comes to mind. Now, Sony already made it loud and clear to not expect another major first-party exclusive this year, but that doesn't rule out some smaller first-party title games that they could reveal soon. One is the rumored Team Asobi game. We actually heard about this a couple months back, that allegedly they might release their next game in 2024. Now, we still don't know what this game is and whether it's being developed for the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation VR 2, maybe even both, which that would be a very welcome outcome. But in my opinion, Team Asobi already secretly developed one of the best PlayStation 5 games. I really do believe that Astra's Playroom is that good. Definitely don't skip out on that game. And I'll be excited to see what their next game is as well, and, well, we might actually see it soon if you believe those rumors going around. We also know that Firewalk Studios is working on a live service project by the name of Concord. They teased this game last year with a very strange teaser trailer. I don't really know why they revealed it this way, because it didn't really tell us anything. I don't really see a reason to be hyped for this game just yet, but, it is supposed to release in 2024, so unless that changed, we should see something on it fairly soon. Now, there's also been rumors floating around that a Gravity Rush 2 PC port is on the way. That's something to maybe keep an eye on. But outside of that, they could possibly reveal some of their other first-party games that are a little further out. Just don't go in expecting them to release in 2024. But as for third-party announcements that could release this year, the Silent Hill 2 remake immediately comes to mind. This is another big PlayStation 5 exclusive, and an ESRB rating, interestingly, was recently spotted online. I mean, we've kind of seen this time and time again. When those ratings start to emerge online, a lot of times that does indicate a soonish announcement. So I'd really be surprised if Silent Hill 2 wasn't at their next showcase, whenever that may be. And speaking of Konami, obviously Metal Gear Solid has a lot of history with the PlayStation brand. Earlier this year, Sony kind of leaked that Metal Gear Solid Delta is being planned for a 2024 release. So if that does indeed hold true, maybe we'll get a release date announcement for Delta as well. For that matter, maybe Konami could reveal Volume 2 for the Metal Gear Solid Collection. I mean, if you think about it, what better way to reveal the return of Metal Gear Solid 4, a previous PlayStation 3 exclusive, than by revealing its revival for modern platforms at a PlayStation event? That, to me, seems like a perfect way to announce it, and for me, that really would be just a massive announcement. I absolutely adore Metal Gear Solid 4. To this day, it is still my favorite Metal Gear Solid, and I really can't wait to see more people play it if that port is true. So yeah, I think a soonish PlayStation event could have a lot of potential announcements, whether that be for games set for 2024 or even games that are a little bit further out, but they could maybe start to tease them in 2024. I mean, Sucker Punch is one such example. What have they been up to since the release of Ghost of Tsushima? Could we get a tease for its sequel? That would be pretty cool. So crossing my fingers that this PlayStation State of Play or showcase is true. That's going to be it for this video, though. Let me hear some of your predictions, or really just a wish list of what you would like to see at the rumored PlayStation Showcase. But until next time, peace out.